How you doing? Okay, this is going to be a video concerning the Southern Cross and sometimes called crux and Sigma Octantis and of course the globe. So I'm not going to waste time, basically just pointing out something that by all accounts should really be a massive issue for heliocentrism and the globe. This is something I noticed in the past, not with just with this example, but a couple of other examples. And I spoke about this in the past some years ago with Adam Meakin. So I'm just going to get into it and show you what the issue is. It's not an issue for those on flat Earth because we don't make stupid claims like the heliocentrists do concerning the sky, but it's a massive issue for them. You know, but if everything is as it's claimed to be, then they've got problems. Okay. Question: is the Southern Cross always the same distance from Sigma Octantis? Right? No, the Southern Cross is not always the same distance from Sigma Octantis. The Southern Cross and Sigma Octantis are in different constellations, and while they both lie near the southern celestial pole, their relative positions change slightly due to the Earth's precession. Now, what they're talking about there when they say precession is the precession of the globe, right? So Earth's precession, this is when they say Earth, they're referring to a globe, right? Earth's precession causes the apparent position of stars to shift over long periods, including the north and south celestial poles. While Polaris currently marks the North Star, Sigma Octantis is the closest star to the south celestial pole. Though it is faint and not as easily visible, due to precession, the south celestial pole is moving away from Sigma Octantis, and brighter stars will eventually become the south pole near the future. Now, Earth's precession, this globe precession, globe axis of rotation wobbles like a spinning top, completing a full wobble precession roughly every 26,000 years. Now, I'm not going to directly focus on this nonsense here, but I'm just going to address it briefly. I'll maybe address it more thoroughly in a future video. Something that was right. This is like supposedly something they're saying happens every 26,000 years. Now, besides all the begging of the question fallacies that they must do to even get to the point of making that claim, nobody. If you look at the supposed recorded history of human beings, nobody was around 26,000 years ago, right? Right? So they have absolutely, just pointing out for new people that might come in here, these people have absolutely zero evidence for any of this horse manure. Just letting you know, right? You can take that as fact, take it to the bank, right? They have no idea about anything that happened 26,000 years ago, or if there even was a 26,000 years ago, right? Polaris never moves. It is, right, directly above, right, the North Geographic Pole. The North Geographic Pole is the GP of Polaris. Don't leave them gaslight you into thinking that, oh, it's half a degree off and all this other rubbish. No, there would be no North Celestial Pole if it wasn't for flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, giving us Polaris's GP point, which is the very center of the latitude and longitude grid. That is the North Geographic Pole. There is no half a degree off of anything. Right, that's globe nonsense that they must add in. I won't go into all the details right now. They must add that in. They must make it slightly off. Their North Geographic Pole and South Geographic Poles must be slightly off, right? Right, especially the North. They must have it slightly off. As I said, I won't go into it now. They don't have a North Geographic Pole if the North Geographic Pole is not the GB point of Polaris. Right? They don't have one. Right? It's nonsense. So, as I said, especially for new people, you can basically take all of their heliocentric rubbish to do with the sky and throw it all in the bin because they've got absolutely nothing to support all this. This is all calculation and pre-assumption and claims based on absolutely nothing other than the logical fallacy of begging the question. Now, I'm going to move on from that. I just wanted to show. So what they're talking about when they mention the 26,000 year thing, right? the thing that's a load of rubbish, but I'll have to go through it for the purpose of this, is see this pole here, right? This is supposedly pointed towards Polaris on the globe, right? This is this point here, right? As you can see, it is the very center of the latitude and longitude grid that they can't have. Anyway, besides that, and over 26,000 years, this wobble, right, their claimed globe wobble, right, or they're wobbling, right, makes this circle. So it takes 26,000 years to make that circle, which means during this time they're trying to claim that a different star besides Polaris will be the North Celestial Star, right? And they'd say the same if you just reverse this to their southern hemisphere, right? Begging the question. Then would be the same for Sigma Octantis. This red line here wouldn't be pointing towards Sigma Octantis. In whatever 13,000 years, we'd be pointing over here at a different direction within their claim. It's all nonsense, but this is what they're claiming. Right, but it takes 26,000 years to go around this circle. So if I just come back to here a sec, no, is the Southern Cross always the same distance from Sigma Octantis? No, the Southern Cross is not always the same distance from Sigma Octantis. The Southern Cross and Sigma Octantis are in different constellations, and while they both lie near the Southern Celestial Pole, their relative positions change slightly due to the Earth's precession. So they're talking about very minor changes. That to see the change they're talking about there, you would have to, like, the globe would have to be real, right, for a start, and all this would have to be true and real, and you'd have to live for 26,000 years. So it's complete nonsense, but I just want to point out that the changes they're talking about there, you won't notice them, right? They're just calculations based within heliocentrism that have no relation whatsoever to reality. But I'm showing this for a reason, and you'll understand why I'm showing it. So that's a 26,000 year cycle, right? But you can ignore all that for the moment. So next question, how far north can Sigma Octantis be seen? Sigma Octantis, also known as Polaris Australis, is the closest star to the South Celestial Pole, but it's very faint and not easily visible. It can be seen from the southern hemisphere and at latitudes close to the equator, below 30 degrees north during the spring in the southern hemisphere. Now, I think they're confusing Sigma Octantis with the Southern Cross, but we'll get into that in a minute. I asked the same question again, but in a different way. Can Sigma Octantis be seen north of the equator? No, Sigma Octantis, also known as Polaris Australis, cannot be seen north of the equator. It is the star nearest the South Celestial Pole, and as such is only visible from the southern hemisphere. Right? Begging the question, but basically what they're saying is you cannot see Sigma Octantis north of the equator, the same way as they say you can't see Polaris south of the equator, right? Because the equator is only there because of flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. So, right, that's why you can't see Polaris south of the equator, right? But the point being is that here, here is, I have asked the question, how far north can the Southern Cross be seen? The Southern Cross constellation, also known as Crux, can be seen from the northern hemisphere, but only at latitudes below approximately 25 to 27 degrees north. This means it's visible from places like Hawaii, southern Florida, and parts of Texas, Philippines, places like that, during certain times of the year, specifically in the late evening during the northern spring. So it's seen in the springtime. Southern Cross is seen in the springtime north of the equator, right? So I don't know if this is true. If this is true, then the globe is it's finished anyway with what I'm going to show. But if this is true that the Sigma Octantis is seen like from 30 degrees north, it's a bit of a problem there for the globe, if you understand some of their rhetoric. But it's more likely that it's not seen from north of the equator, right? But the Southern Cross is seen from north of the equator. So the last question I asked, this is not new questions, as I said, I've known about this and other elements connected to this for several years now. How much does the Southern Cross move away from Sigma Octantis over a year? Sorry, I put in T with the end of the area. So they corrected me. How much does the Southern Cross move away from Sigma Octantis over a year? AIO overview from Google. The Southern Cross does not move away from Sigma Octantis in a linear or noticeable way over a year. Right? Instead, both the Southern Cross and Sigma Octantis, along with all the other stars in the southern sky, appear to rotate around the south celestial pole, which is very close to Sigma Octantis. This apparent rotation is due to the Earth's rotation on its axis, blah, 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 blah. Point being, right, that in the northern spring, the Southern Cross can be seen north of the equator, right? And at no time can Sigma Octantis be seen north of the equator, right? I'm going to go with this BBC Sky at Night. I'm going to go with that for the minute because it doesn't matter if this is correct because that is complete destruction of globe. But this is going to destroy globe anyway. If we're seeing, right, the Southern Cross as far north as 27 degrees, right? In the springtime, which would be around the vernal equinox, right? Then, and the distance between that and Sigma Octantis doesn't change for an observer throughout the year of any normal everyday year, any normal year, right? So this, what they're talking about here, right? About the precession nonsense, their globe precession nonsense, that's a 26,000 year thing. So of an average year, right, even within their paradigm, there is no change in the apparent distance between these 2 points, the Southern Cross and Sigma Octantis. So, if that's the case, then how can the Southern Cross be seen north of the equator in spring, and nobody is seeing Sigma Octantis moving it from its position anywhere south of the equator? If we're on a globe, right? If we were on a globe, all hypothetical here, and the reason we're seeing the celestial bodies appear to move around at night is because they're actually stationary and we're on the rotating reference frame. So due to the Coriolis effect, it appears to us that the celestial bodies are moving when it's actually us moving, right? Visual effect, what's known as the Coriolis effect. So if that is the case, and if that was the case, then if we are seeing a change in the position, the apparent position of the Southern Cross, to the point where it can be seen up to 27 degrees north around vernal equinox, which is springtime in the north, which is March, around there, then how come Sigma Octantis never moves? Because I know there's the claim of the 23.4 degree tilt. I know that's part of heliocentric nonsense and globe nonsense. And of course, Kepler had to add that in. He had no choice because the sun didn't do what he needed it to do. But the point being is that if the globe is changing its tilt by 23.4 degrees, right? So in June, it's tilted 23.4 degrees one way, then at the equinoxes there's no tilt, and then in December it's tilted the opposite way by 23.4 degrees, blah blah blah, right? If that tilt, right, was happening and causing us to see difference, right? I'm just saying, if people are trying to, this is only for those out there who are going to try and argue that this is caused by the tilt of the globe, right? If that was happening, and that is causing the apparent position of the Southern Cross to move, then that also has to cause the apparent position of everything else to change, including Sigma Octantis, right? So, but the Southern Cross does not move away from Sigma Octantis in a linear or noticeable way over a year. Instead, both the Southern Cross and Sigma Octantis, along with all the other stars in the southern sky, appear to rotate around the south celestial pole, which is very close to Sigma Octantis. The apparent rotation is due to the Earth's rotation on its axis. They're talking about the globe, right? So there is no way for the Southern Cross to be seen north of the equator because of some ridiculous globe tilt, right? And Sigma Octantis to never move. So if the two are, I'll just show, because I made a little diagram. Of course I did. I'm a bastard like that. If the two, right, the Southern Cross here and Sigma Octantis, if they never change their apparent distance from each other, right, then how can the Southern Cross be seen north of the equator of a globe, right? Well, in reality, not of a globe, just in reality, north of the equator, in the around the North springtime, which is around vernal equinox, and Sigma Octantis not change its position, because within globe rhetoric, Polaris is straight more or less above this point, which is this north geographic pole, and Sigma Octantis is straight below or above, for if we're going into globe rhetoric, for this person here, which is at this south geographic pole. So this would be the Polaris would be along the north celestial pole, and directly down here would be the north geographic pole on a globe. Sigma Octantis would be along the south celestial pole, and this here would be the south geographic pole, right? So there's no way for these two to change their apparent position for the observer, right? And Sigma Octantis not move out of position. Sigma Octantis would have to be, if I just get a little point here, would have to be over here somewhere. That would have to be, I'll just make it a bit bigger. Sorry. Now, Sigma Octantis would also, maybe that's a bit too far over, but the point is, Sigma Octantis would have to move if the Southern Cross moves. And if the Southern Cross is claimed to, just for people out there who are going to try and jump straight to, it's a globe tilt. It's not. There's no globe. But even within that paradigm, the point being is that there is no way for the Southern Cross to change its apparent position in relation to the observers on Earth, and Sigma Octantis not change its apparent position if the two don't change their apparent distance from each other. Because remember, the claim is, right, now they can do that if the sky is something we don't understand and it's over a flat Earth, and the sky is a mystery, and the stars, celestial bodies, wandering stars, all these things, sun and moon, they're a mystery. If they're all a mystery to us, then they can do these things. This can happen, right? Because it's a mystery. It does, it's like magic, basically. That's the only way I could describe it. People could laugh at that, but that's the only way to honestly describe it as magic. But they can't do it if we are on a rotating sphere and they're all appearing stationary from our point of view. And these two do not change their apparent distance throughout the year. That can't happen, right? There is no way for that to happen. They cannot stay at the same distance from each other and won't suddenly be able to be seen out here just because of a tilt. That can't happen. They both must move, or none of them can move if we're supposed to be on a globe. But we know that this here is claimed to never be seen north of this blue line, which is the equator. Yet this here, the Southern Cross, is visible from Texas, the Philippines, South Florida, all these places, North Africa, all these places in around vernal equinox. So I don't know how you're going to get out of this. Because you can't claim precession, because that's a 26,000 year heap of nonsense. That's that's probably the culmination of the most epic begging the question bonanza of all time. So you can't claim that, and you can't claim tilt, because tilt would mean that sigma octantis would also have to change. Right? I don't care about its size and its distance. It doesn't matter. We see it as an apparent light source, right, or point of light. The same for, right, the same for Polaris, right? And of course, I didn't add it in here, but for the Big Dipper. Those two would also have to change if the Big Dipper appears to move in the sky over the course of a year, and it does, because the Big Dipper can be seen south of the equator for sometimes in the year, and sometimes not, if I remember correctly. Then Polaris, if we were on a globe and there was this tilt happening, this 23.4 degree tilt happening, then Polaris would also have to move out of position and couldn't be the North Star. See, these are things that I don't think that anyone who's a baller and an astronomer, I don't know how they're going to deal with that, because there is no answer to it other than it's not a globe, because that's the only answer. It's not a globe. There is no second other answer. There is no precession, tilt of the globe. There is no, well, the Southern Cross stars are actually this far away and sigma. No, there's no way around it. They are all stationary. Right? Now, I know in the bigger scheme of heliocentrism, they're not. But from our point of view, they're claimed to be stationary. And remember, this is a yearly thing. Right? So you can't say, oh, one is this far away and one is that far away and the tilt and blah, blah, blah. No, this would have to be something. If it was down to their distances and sizes, then there would have to be a yearly difference. There isn't. It's the same all the time, every year, forever. In history, nothing changes. The sky never changes. The main things that are happening in the sky happen the same way every single year without fail. That's why the nautical almanac in celestial navigation can be given to you for 500 years into the future, because there's no changes. They could do it for 1,000 years into the future. This was admitted, the 10th man, by navigators who were involved in the production of it. They can give you that for 1,000 years into 5,000 years. It's not going to change. The only changes that happen here and there they're not constant changes. They're part of a cycle. There's bigger cycles in the sky and there's smaller cycles in the sky. Some cycles take a long time to happen, to reoccur. Other cycles happening every year. The point being is the sky never changes. It's always the same. Right? As I said, some cycles take longer than others, but they're still cycles. And if something happens now, it will happen again. Right? It might be 6 months, might be a year, might be 500 years. But the point is, it will happen again the exact same way. There's no way around it. Everything is on a cycle in the sky. It is a clock, if you want to, for the want of a better term. Point being is that the sky, right, does whatever it does, and the official claims concerning these things do not match what they're claiming the Earth to be. They cannot stay at the same apparent distance from each other and one suddenly be able to be seen north of the equator, and this one still is only over the supposed South Pole. The same can be said for Polaris. How can there be a 23.4 degree tilt and Polaris still be, I don't care what size and distance you want to say it is, it's a point of light source. It's a point of light, a light source, basically, that we can see. There's no way for it to stay the same and there be a 23.4 degree tilt, right? And other things change. See, Polaris can't stay as it is and have let's just say the Big Dipper appear to be seen south of the equator, no more than sigma Octantis can stay the same and the Southern Cross be seen further north, yet the two of them stay an equal distance from each other. Because I think if I remember correctly, if you look into it, the Big Dipper and Polaris, they don't change their apparent distance from each other either. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's basically the same. So it's basically the same north as south and south. So how can someone here see the Southern Cross and this sigma Octantis not be directly over the head of someone over here, in South Australia? How is that possible? There's no way around this. right? I don't care what astronomer was. I welcome him. Danny Faulkner, whoever. Bring whoever, right? I want to see the globe answer for this, because there is no globe answer. That can't happen. You cannot have an apparent equal distance throughout the year, every year. And yet, every year, one be seen north of the equator, and this one here never move. There is absolutely no way for that to happen. This is always claimed to be directly over the south geographic pole of a globe. This is claimed to always be over the north geographic pole of a globe. Now, if this is always seen 90 degrees south, and this is always seen 90 degrees north, but this here, the Southern Cross, changes its apparent position, yet the two here, this Sigma Octantis and Southern Cross, never appear to change apparent distance from each other, then that means you have no idea what the sky is or how it does what it does. You don't know what these things are, and you don't know what these things are. You certainly don't know what the Earth is, and I don't know what else to add to it. It's impossible. It's just impossible. Some things are impossible. And I think one of the things at present that may be impossible is that it may be impossible for us to know what the celestial bodies are and how they do what they do. I think it's very likely that they sit outside our realm of understanding, because they operate and are, let's say, made of something we don't know anything about, something that we have no reference for here on the Earth. Because they can do stuff like that. Because I do agree that the apparent distance between I'm not arguing that the apparent distance between Sigma Octantis and the Southern Cross, it always stays the same. It always appears to be the same. But the Southern Cross is then visible north of the equator for part of the year. The same with the Big Dipper and Polaris. So, I mean, if these things are not changing their apparent position, yet one is seen north of the equator for part of the year, but the other doesn't move it from its position. Like Sigma Octantis is never seen directly over South Australia. Like people in Tasmania don't go out and look straight up and go, oh look, there's Sigma Octantis. That doesn't happen. The same for Polaris. Polaris is never seen directly over Southern Ireland. Do you know what I mean? This is the problem. Right? Because Polaris and Sigma Octantis don't change their apparent positions. Right? And Southern Cross always appears to be the same distance from Sigma Octantis. Yet, it also can be seen north of the equator for part of the year. As I said, if it was a tilt of a globe, then everything in the sky would appear to change its position. Not just one or two things. So, I'll leave it at that. I've probably ruined a few people's weekends. But who cares? Most of them aren't nice guys anyway. Good luck.